Hello everybody, welcome back to another part of Umineko. It's Lorelei, hope you had a good week. The last time we left off, we saw the remaining adults, try to fight their way out of the dungeon that Kinzo had placed them in. And it's somewhere on Koidorin, as we expected. But anyway, without further ado, let's just get right into today's episode. What a cliffhanger. The world 12 years later. Okay, I definitely need a break from whatever weird thing we just saw back then. Title is My Mission. Ooh, now this is looking interesting. We're gonna learn more about Ange's journey to Rokkenjimagate. I believe the clinic that Nanjo had opened and later passed on to his son still existed on Nijima. The aged doctor was Nanjo's son, but the atmosphere about him was very different.
わざわざお越しくださり、誠に申し訳ないのですが、特にお話しすることはありません。
So unfriendly, unlike Nanjo. Nanjo's son spoke very indifferently.
あの島の事故がワイドショーなどで非常に不謹慎に取り上げられて以来、後ろ宮市の主治医であり友人でもあった父にも大変心外な関心が多数寄せられました。そのいずれもが何の根拠もなく、また父のそれまでの業績を汚すものでした。
Oh, so they're accusing Nanjo.
私はそれらすべてについて未だに強く憤慨しています。
無理もないことと思います。私も同じようなものですので。私など6つの時から延々です。
そうでしたね。これは失礼。
The doctor finally remembered that Ange was also a victim, exposed to the same curious eyes as he had been.
そんなあなたなら当時の件にもう関わりたくないという私どもの気持ちもお分かりでしょう。
Yet he's still running the clinic on Nijima.
あれは不幸な事故でした。それを事件だと騒ぎ立てたがるのは無責任なテレビと雑誌だけです。彼らの態度には心底うんざりさせられますよ。
They keep calling it an accident, but we still don't know just what happened. Nanjo had been placed in a spotlight for being one of Ushinomiya Kinzo's few friends. Because of that, there had probably been a persistent offensive from the witch hunters and the press who used the late Nanjo's son as well as a source of information. The doctor went on, criticizing the press indignantly.
お気持ち、よくわかります。私生活に至るまで監視を受け、プライバシーも肖像権も、果ては人権さえも認められてたかわからない私ですから、そのやり場のないお怒り、よくお察しできます。だからこそ、私の人生をここまで台無しにしたあの事件は、一体何だったのか、どうしても知りたいのです。それでここへ来ました。私も、あなたと同じ当事者です。雑誌記者でも、インタビュアーでもありません。そこを誤解しないでください。私は、道楽でこんなところまで来たんじゃない。私を見下すのもいい加減にしてください。あの事件で狂わされた人生の傷跡比べをするならば、私とあなたでは、比べ物にもならない。
That's harsh. Ange spoke sharply. Never having imagined that he would be talked back to in such a forceful manner, the doctor couldn't help but fall silent. From Ange's perspective, the doctor was whining about absolutely nothing. Still though, I still feel like it's unfair to compare it. She really wanted him to pack in his patronizing attitude, but that's kind of fair as well, I think. It was about time to make him understand how many days had passed for her before arriving on this island. The doctor realized that he had misspoken and remained silent for a while, looking uncomfortable.
当時のことを思い出すのは苦痛でしょうが、ご存知のことがあったら何でも教えてください。もちろん口外はしません。私は、私の人生に決着をつけるために、今日ここへ訪れています。私は18です。あの事件は、私の人生の12年を奪った。そしてこれからも奪い続けるでしょう。私は6歳のあの日から、ずっと暗闇に放り込まれたままなんです。そんな私でも、知る権利がないとおっしゃるんですか？
いや、失敬。 たちの悪い連中ばかりが来ていたので、私もつい身構えてしまったようです。失敬したのをお詫びします。わかりました。他言無用を誓っていただけるなら何でもお話しします。
ありがとう先生。ではお願いします。何でも結構です。話してください。
I'm very curious.
知っての通り、父は後ろ宮市の主治医であると同時にチェスを通じた友人同士でもありました。その親交は後ろ宮市が六軒島に移り住んできた当時からのとても長いものでした。
どのくらい仲が良かったのですか？
相当だったようです。チェスの縁で先方の屋敷に厄介になることも少なくなかったようです。私の口から言うのもなんだが、後ろ宮氏は非常に気難しい方でした。そして父はそんな人間と付き合うのに長けた非常におおらかな人だった。孤独な後ろ宮氏にとって稀な友人であったことは想像に難しくないでしょう。
当日は親族会議でした。後宮家の親族会議は資産やその運用などについて厳しく問われるさながら経営会議のようなものだったとされています。そのような席にまで出席を求められるほどに南條先生は信頼を得ていたわけですね。
父は純朴な医師であり、後宮家のような富豪の財産運用について助言できるような立場にあったとは思えません。
You know, I think this is the most surprising thing to me, is that I never once questioned why Nanjo was there. I just assumed, like the servants, he was asked to be there, I don't know, just in case. But now that we are talking about it, it definitely is a big question.
おそらく当時の後宮氏は健康状態が優れられなかったでしょうから、その買い添えとして呼ばれていたのでしょう。
But we know that there's a bit of a discrepancy there, right? About Nanjo and Kinzo's health. Because even though Nanjo kept telling everyone that Kinzo had only a few months to live at most, Kinzo was definitely very energetic, full of vitality and everything. He doesn't seem like the kind of person that's still lying on his deathbed or anything. And there's the whole thing with Genji and Nanjo, and as well as Natsuhi and Krause's pact or something. They have something going on, and we don't know what it is.
親友の父ならおそらく口も固く、親族会議上の秘密もきっと漏らさないと信頼されていたに違いない。
当時の後宮金蔵はかなり健康状態が悪かったのでしょうか？カルテが残っていたりはしますか？
事故の当日はカルテを持参していたのでしょう。後宮氏のカルテは残念ながらフォルダごと失われています。父のクラン家ですし、私も詳しいことはわかりません。
So convenient. Kinzo's medical records, everything lost.
事件の前後、何か気になるようなことはありました？
あるにはあります。
Oh.
ですが、非常に誤解を招きそうなので、あまり言いたくはありません。
何ですか？それを教えてください。
For a while, the doctor beat around the bush. But after he'd said that much, Ange would not allow the subject to be dodged. Eventually, he was worn down, and after making Ange swear herself to secrecy again, he opened up.
実は、あの事故の数日後に、私の自宅に郵便が届いたのです。
You know, I got chills. I have chills right now.
郵便？
それはとても奇妙な郵便でした。差出人が私になっているのですが、それは身に覚えのないものでした。
The sender was made up to be Nanjo's son?
何者かが私の名を語って出したということです。宛先は北海道の礼文島。
Hokkaido's Rebun Island. Now that's a location we should jot down in case it's helpful in the solving of the epitaph.
北方領土の話を抜きにすれば、日本の最北端の島です。
Northernmost tip of Japan. And then the Sweetfish River.
その宛先人がなんと 礼文島の住所ではありますが、父の名前だったのです。
Oh, that's so scary. What's with the sound effect? Oh, wait. Is Umineko a scary game? For a long time it was not scary, but that one sound effect kind of changed my mind. So, the recipient is Rebun Island, but the name was his father's. Interesting. And the sender was made out to be Nanjo's son.
しかし、送付先住所が間違っているらしく、住所不明の付箋が貼られて。
You know, I have immense chills right now because I'm very scared of what's going to happen. Immense chills.
差出人である私のところへ戻ってきたわけです。
Someone... Oh god, I'm very creeped out. I'm very creeped out right now. But this is vital information. Very vital information. I know he said don't misunderstand, but what's there to misunderstand? Definitely something to poke around and pick apart. It was truly a strange tale. Nanjo's son's name was written as sender. However, he said that he hadn't mailed the letter. In short, that meant someone had sent it using his name. The destination was Nanjo Teru Masa on Hokkaido's Rebun Island. But a lot number written on it didn't exist, and what's a lot number? So the local post office had been unable to deliver it, and instead sent it back to the sender, Nanjo's son. Oh god.
中身は何だ
Oh
ったんですか
god. I'm scared.
本当に他言無用でお願いします。
Please don't say something like a gold bar. Well, no, it can't be a gold bar. I don't think so. Or like someone's finger. That would be very scary.
私も非常に迷惑しているんです。かといって捨てるわけにもいかず。
Oh god. The doctor stood up and headed for the bookshelf. There, dozens of dictionaries that could only have been ornamental were lined up one after another, asserting in the strongest way imaginable that the owner was an intellectual. And he pulled several volumes out from there. A large brown envelope was hidden behind them. He took it out and tossed it onto the desk. It had been carefully sealed with adhesive tape, and its faded color and dryness told that it had remained sealed for 12 whole years. God.
くれぐれも他言無用でお願いします。
While emphasizing it so much was annoying, the doctor removed the seal with a quality paper knife. Then, when he tilted the envelope, an already opened mail envelope spilled out. The envelope had weight to it, hinting that there was something other than a letter inside. The recipient was certainly Nanjo Terumasa. Even seeing that was a huge shock. After that incident, Nanjo's corpse had not been found, and he was being treated as dead in absentia under extraordinary circumstances. So no corpses, but it's an accident still. And despite that, this letter addressed to a Nanjo in Hokkaido existed. One could almost take this as a sign that he had faked his own death and escaped to Hokkaido.
南條先生は本当に北海道に存在を、あるいは同姓同名の人物が北海道に。
父が何かの事情で事故を逃れ、北海道で存命していたのだとしたら、私たち家族にとっては事情に関わらず嬉しいことです。私も初めはその可能性を考えました。しかし、この封筒の送付先住所は存在しないのです。
It's a message.
つまりこの封筒は届くはずのない郵便なのです。
It was never meant to reach Nanjo. I'm sure the letter, the envelope, is a message to the descendants or someone else even. But I'm sure the destination is important.
送付者が正しい住所を書き損じた可能性は？
もちろん否定はできません。ですが、住所の番地を見る限り、どうもそうは思えないのです。
北海道礼文島礼文郡礼文町 1-2-34-567。
Oh. Up until Rebun City, it's alright. But I just couldn't wipe away the feeling that following sequential number, 1234567 was a little insincere. It felt like a fake address that some kid had made up.
おそらく明らかに存在しない住所をデタラメに書いたのでしょう。この封筒は初めから存在せず届くはずのない住所に送付されたと考えるのが自然だと思います。
I'm of this same opinion as well. If the destination address doesn't exist, mail is generally returned to the sender. But even in the case of a faulty address, the local post office will often courteously, and to the best of its ability, research to find whether the sender's intended destination exists. When they still can't find it, the mail is sometimes returned after an investigation of several days. It seemed that this was what happened with this envelope, and the stamp was postmarked October 3rd. It was postmarked on Nijima. Nijima is a long way from Revun Island, so sent from Nijima? On top of that, the destination was also nonsensical. It had taken more than a week for the mail to be returned. In other words, there was an extremely high chance that having this envelope returned to the sender after an indeterminate amount of time had been a goal from the very beginning. Why do something like that? Even before asking what it was that had been sent, this envelope was already veiled in mystery.
中身は？
どうぞ。
After getting the doctor's permission, I tilted the already opened envelope. From inside came a small folded letter and a small key with a number tag attached. A swipe card slid out in addition. A112 was engraved on the key's number tag. I didn't know what it meant. The swipe card was pitch black and had gold letters engraved on it. Members was written there in English. The jet black gold lettered card design made it feel like something very high class. Oh. I feel like I kind of have an idea. But of course, I didn't have a clue what kind of card it was just from that. I unfolded the letter. Its contents were extremely brief, and only the following was written. Oh no! Stop! Why flash that number? Very scary, you know. It's very scary. God. 07151129, 0715 Battler's birthday, and 1129, something I don't know. God, please, no jump scare? Oh god. The name of a certain massive bank known throughout Japan, as well as the words Central Branch. That was all. Gold.
これは？
Gold? Password?
貸金庫のカードと鍵、そして暗証番号でした。それも普通の貸金庫ではない。
So he searched it up, huh?
特別な顧客のみに許されているらしい不気味な貸金庫でした。
Man, the mystery just got more mysterious. After he had finished putting his affairs in order following his father's funeral, he visited the bank. Pin and key and card. There was no doubt that something of great importance was stored there, and it was natural that he was curious about what that could be. At first he didn't know what to do. The card wasn't properly his possession. When he mustered up his courage and showed the card to a bank clerk, he was then switched to a clerk of a clearly high status and was guided to a large vault on the fourth basement floor. The security on the way there was strict. The doctor had himself stored valuable items such as real estate transcripts in safe deposit boxes before, but this was something on a whole different level. Oh, I'm scared.
私の使っている貸金庫の手続きと違い、カードと暗証番号、そして鍵を持っているならば、本人確認は行われないというシステムでした。
That is suspicious. No identity checks so anyone can gain access to it. Yeesh.
ですが、とにかく厳重な金庫室で、その物々しさに怯えました。 こんなところに預けざるを得ないどんな物騒なものが待ち受けているのかと。
それで
カードをリーダーに通すと暗証番号の入力を求められました。そしてそこにある8桁の数字を入力すると認証され、金庫室への入室が認められました。
Why is Battler's birthday part of the pin? There is no coincidences. I don't believe it.
すごい光景でしたよ。まるで SF 映画のような世界だった。
Sci-fi.
薄暗い銀色の広大な部屋にびっしりと金庫の扉が埋め尽くされているのです。
He entered the room along with the clerk. As soon as the card was read, the vaults he had a right to were apparently determined, so that safes he could open were lit with a green light, while those he couldn't open were lit with a red one, suggesting, well, I don't know how this works, but it suggests that there are a bunch of people who have access to this room of safes, and his card and pin number and whatever unique to him opens only a certain number of safes?
A11 にはそれらの金庫のうちの一つを示すものでした。
Oh, the number on the key.
ちなみにそれ以外の金庫にもずらりと緑ランプが点灯していました。20個以上はあったと思います。
20.
あるいは他の一角にももっとあったのかも。いずれにせよ私の鍵は A11 にのみ。
Suggesting that there were more letters being delivered to other people?
他の金庫の中身を確かめる術はありませんでしたが。
As the clerk watched, the doctor unlocked and opened the safe. So the clerk knows what's going on? When he did, a safe drawer like a large cabinet opened, and an expensive-looking duralumin case showed itself. That was carried into a separate room where, for the first time, the clerk left and he was introduced to the contents.
中身は
現金でした。
Cash.
現金。どれほど？
新札の100万円の束はちょうど厚みが1センチになると聞いたことがあります。それがこれだけのジュラルミンケースの中にびっしり詰められていたのですから、多分1億はあったでしょう。
100 million yen.
数えたわけではないから分かりません。手すら触れませんでしたから、私はすぐに直感しました。これは危険な金だと。
It isn't normal to store a whole 100 million yen in cash in a safe like that, case and all. It's much easier to deal with if you deposit it into a bank account and turn it into a number. The very fact that they were unable to do it made it clear that there was something wrong with that cash. Dangerous money, huh?
私は頭が真っ白になり、すぐに関わり合ってはならないと直感しました。
Crime. Well, there's a lot of crimes now.
それで一切手をつけなかった。
はい、そのまま施錠し直し、元の金庫に預けて立ち去りました。この鍵やカードも捨てようと思いましたが、何が起こるかわからない。そのため誰にも内緒で12年もの間、本棚の裏に隠し続けてきたのです。あれが何の金だったのか、私にも未だにわかりません。
この封筒をお借りすることはできますか？
いえ、この場で見るだけにしてください。
わかりました。ではちょっと失礼します。調べ物を。
I took One-chan's grimoire from the knapsack I had set down, and I opened to the page with the paragraph Beatrice had written to One-chan and compared the handwriting on both. Same? Oh, please. The characteristic handwriting was unmistakable. The one who had sent this 100 million yen in cash was Beatrice herself, which once again suggested that whoever this Beatrice is indeed a real person. But what is it? Something's bugging me. What is it? What is it?
え、ええ、
That scared me.
そんな郵便物が確か届いた気がしますわ。母ちゃん、あれはどこにしまったっけな。
The same envelope and contents had been sent to Kumasawa's son, who had once lived with her. But he had been very busy in the days since, and seemed to have forgotten about it among the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But apparently, its strange contents had stayed in his memory, and he remembered as soon as Ange told him. After a bit of a wait, his thin-lipped wife came with an envelope, complaining that he always forgets where he puts things. The modus operandi for the sender and recipient was exactly the same as for Nanjo's son. The sender was made out to be Kumasawa's son, and the recipient was Kumasawa Chiyo. And the destination address was in Okinawa Prefecture. Now that's different. Okinawa Prefecture, Yeiyama City, Yonaguni City, 123415167. That's different. Yonaguni Island is the westernmost tip of Japan, and the lot number was exactly like before, a sequential number that had apparently been chosen at random. Now it was certain. This envelope was definitely sent with the goal of having it be returned to the sender. Its contents were exactly the same. The letter of the pin and the bank's central branch written on it, a swipe card, a key with attached number tag. The inscription on the number tag was A1113. A113, sorry. The number right after the one on the key that had been sent to Nanjo's son. Most likely, inside the vault was the same kind of duralumin case packed with 100 million yen in cash.
死んだお袋がメイドから送ってきたような気がしてね。中身もよくわからんし、薄気味悪いんで、ずっとほったらかしにしてて、今日まですっかり忘れてたんですわ。
He has the same, what do you call it? Personality or feeling as Kumasawa. Which is kind of nice, I guess. But he knew it's creepy. Everyone feels like it's creepy.
お嬢さんはこれが何かご存知なんですかね。ひょっとしてあんたんとこにも同じものが。
どうしたんです、エンジ様。
Was there?
うりょ、頭痛ごめん、頭が痛い。刺さってる。知ってる。知ってるって何を？まさかこの封筒、エンジ様のところにも？
I remember. The strange envelope was also sent to me 12 years ago. I had fallen into depression after losing my entire family, but it was a really strange thing to come in the mail, so a faint memory of it remained. It was a strange letter, which I had no memory of sending, but which had me as the sender. I forgot the destination address, but the person it had been sent to was Ushiromiya Rudolph. My father. I remember that I got this letter I thought was from my father who had died. I opened it up, and I found a key and a card that I didn't really understand. I remember being really confused. I felt let down and threw it away somewhere, I think. Where did I put that envelope? I probably lost it somewhere in the chaos that followed. By now, I have no way of checking its contents. But somehow, I think I can guess. I'm sure the contents were the same. Without a doubt, there must have been a key, card, and a note with a pin inside the envelope. But the destination?
ベアトリーチェ、これは何のつもりよ。あいつは全ての遺族にこんなふざけた金をばらまいたというの？死んだ後も愚弄するなんて許せない。ウリュ、エンジェ。
Rokkenjimagate acted nervously. As I looked at his worrying face, my agitation began to cool off bit by bit.
ごめんなさい。ベアトリーチェ憎しは今に始まったことじゃないわ。あの6歳の日にもうすでにあの魔女と縁があったことに驚きと怒りを感じただけよ。
この12年間、エンジ様はずっとベアトリーチェ様の呪縛に囚われてきた。これがそのまさに呪縛の証となるのかもしれません。ですがどうかしっかりそれを打ち破るための旅でもあるはずです。
そうね、頭に血を上らせたって何の役にも立たないわ。冷静に考えなくちゃ。これはどういうことなの？遺族に1億円をばらまく意味は何？挑発だとでも言うの？ベアトリーチェめ。
エンジェ、落ち着いて。ウリュウ。
As Sakatara buried his head in my stomach, he urged me to stay calm. I took another deep breath and started thinking.
この封筒の送付はつまりベアトリーチェによる事件の計画性を裏付けるものかしら。
It is. It definitely does suggest premeditation. Definitely.
消印は親族会議の直前、そしてわざと時間をかけて返送されてくるように仕組まれている。事件の後に届くようにしたかったということかな。
うん、そうなるわ。でも少し疑問もあるの。なぜこんな不確実な方法で？
不確実？
ええ、だって何日で郵便が戻ってくるかなんて事前には想像もできないじゃない。郵送先の郵便局が調査し送付先不明と判断し返送するまでの期間なんて。
そういえばそうだね。ちゃんと到着の期日を決めてそういう郵便で出した方が確実なのにね。うりゅう。まあでも前日に投函したんならどんなに早く戻ってきてもきっと月曜日以降の到着になったでしょうし、死者からの手紙を気取りたかったんじゃないかしら。
There's definitely some reason to it. Sending it before.
死者からの手紙か。確かにね。あれは驚くし嫌な気持ちになるわよ。死んだ家族の名前が表に大きく書かれている郵便物が物々しい付箋付きで郵便受けに放り込まれているんだから。でも私は何か腑に落ちないわ。私だったら期日指定郵便にする。
I don't really understand this one. Mail it to arrive on a specified day.
ひょっとしたら想定しない日に届くかもしれないという不安定さが私にはどうしても理解できないの。
ウリュウ。でも確かにそういうのベアトらしいかなって思う。
え、あなたベアトのことわかるの？
ちょっとしかお話ししたことないけど、でもベアトならこういうことをするかなってのがなんとなくわかるの。マモンもなんとなく想像がつかない？ベアトってこういういたずら好きだよね。確かにそうかも。ベアドリージュ様なら死者からの手紙みたいな悪質ないたずらはやりかねないと思います。それだけじゃなくて絶対確実な方法じゃなくてちょっぴり不確実な方法の方をベアトリーチェは面白がるの。
不確実な方法を面白がる？
I just can't help but feel like if everything is Ange's imagination, then perhaps Ange has met Beatrice before. I remembered Maria Onechan's diary. It had quite a lot of descriptions of playing with Beatrice. Occasionally, some of these involved Beato playing pranks on the adult relatives with Maria. But those pranks always followed a certain little aesthetic principle of witches, which was that things are more fun if they are uncertain. One day, Maria Onechan had brought a wind-up minicar and she and Beato decided to use it for a prank. It was a popular toy at the time. If you made the minicar back up, it would wind up the spring in the tires, and when you let go, it would race forwards. They had wound up the minicar and set it in the shadow of a milk jug. In other words, the prank was, if you lifted the milk jug, the minicar would jump forwards and surprise whoever did it. Hoping that someone would get caught in this prank, One-chan and Byato had watched the adults from the shadows for the whole tea time. They were looking forward to seeing who would get caught by it, but ultimately, no one moved the trapped milk jug, and the trap never went off. When One-chan had then muttered, "We should have put it somewhere where they definitely get caught by it," Byato apparently said this. He said, "Traps where you don't know who will get caught, or even whether anyone will get caught at all, are more thrilling and fun." It's probably true that you wouldn't get that kind of excitement from a trap that would definitely catch someone. This kind of description occurred in multiple places, making it possible to guess that the witch called Beatrice had quite a fickle character and loved a random thrill. A fickle person is very hard to deal with. I can't flip over the chessboard to find out what that witch from 12 years ago was planning. As Ange thought these things over, her gaze wandered from place to place. Then she suddenly showed interest in a wall. There, a number of framed photographs were hung. Many were commemorative photos from where the Kumasawas got together as a family or went somewhere to play, and Kumasawa herself was in many of them. Still with a smile that made it so you could almost hear her light-hearted ho-ho-ho laugh. It's a distant memory, but I do remember that she was definitely this sort of cheerful old lady.
熊沢さんは事件の直前に変わった様子はありましたか？
いや、いつも通りに見えたな。親族会議はピリピリするから辛い辛いと漏らすのはいつものことでしたし。
これは？
Among the numerous frames, there was one that had something other than a picture of people in it. Scary one? It was a photograph of an enlarged relief of a door from a Western-style house or something. That is sounding very familiar. I couldn't see any interesting subject in particular, which actually bugged me a bit as I wondered why anyone had gone to all the trouble of taking it. That is very familiar. As I got closer, I realized that some text had been written in pen.
ああ、それはお袋の形見分けでもらってきた写真ですわ。
I'm trying to remember where this is. Is it a chapel or somewhere else? Because the thing about a relief is very familiar.
多分、例の黄金伝説に関係したやつではないかと。
魔女の碑文ですか？10トンの黄金の隠し場所を示すと噂される。熊沢さんも挑んでおられたんですね。でも、これは碑文じゃない。初めて見るものです。
There was an arch above the Western-style door, and that arch had a relief. It was an inscription written in English, and that seemed to be the focus of the photograph. A chapel? I know there was something, an inscription in English talking about, possibility, right? The pen writing appeared to be a translation into Japanese.
この扉は1000兆分の1の確率でしか開かない。
Ah, that is... I'm right, it is a chapel.
あなたは1000兆分の1の確率でしか祝福されない。知らないわ。
So this is what it was. But it had MBTQ written on it, right?
こんな文章、碑文にもお姉ちゃんの日記にも出てこない。
Why? I'm sure this is important. But Maria has never written anything about it. Why? Why is there such a difference? I'm trying to think about it.
お袋の遺品の中に碑文の謎解きに挑戦してると思われる写真やノートが結構出てきたんですわ。お袋も案外そういうのが好きだったんだな。なんでも10トンの金塊が隠されてたって噂だ。そりゃあお袋も夢中になるはずですわ。
In both Maria Onechan's diary and in her grimoire, there was a description of the witch's epitaph. It mentioned about how it was a ritual to open a door to the Golden Land, and Beatrice's resurrection ritual and Beatrice's succession ceremony, and so on. Maybe the most interesting one was the last line, the succession ceremony. According to Beatrice, if you were able to solve the witch's epitaph, you would receive not only 10 tons of gold and the Yoshinomiya family inheritance, but her own magical power and name, as well as the title of Golden Witch. Among the Yoshinomiya family at that time, the witch's epitaph was thought of as a difficult quiz, which the head, Kinzo, had prepared to select his successor. But in the Murach Sorcier interpretation, the questioner was Beatrice herself, and she had posed the question in part to choose her successor. There were slight discrepancies in the details of the two interpretations, which is true, I guess, because we do have the letter from Beatrice that sounded like something else, and then Kinzo and his succession problem. Either way, its disturbing contents brought to mind a bloody serial murder, and both of the message bottles depicted a crime that followed that pattern. If I could solve the witch's epitaph now, 12 years later, I wonder if I could expose some plot make back then. I tried to solve it many times myself, but I never did have a clue what it meant. It seems that many witch hunters have been trying as well. I also found theories like the La Plata theory and the Enora theory in certain books. However, none of these theories were conclusive. Gonna have to search that up.
他にも資料が？
あると思うけど、兄弟で適当に分けたからな。誰が何を持ってるやらさっぱりですわ。申し訳ない。
この熊沢さんが撮影した英文だけ読むと、めったに開かれない開かずの扉という印象を受ける。でも、これは屋敷のどこかしら？
Chapel, right? The chapel.
光の具合から屋外みたいだけど、熊沢さんはこの中にその黄金が隠されていると睨んでたのかしら。
Maybe, maybe a tunnel from the chapel to Kuadorian.
さあ、いずれにせよ、六軒島の屋敷のどこかでしょうな。お袋の預金口座には、残念だが黄金を発見したと思えるようなお金は入ってませんでしたよ。さすがに見つからんかったんでしょうな。
The Golden Witch Beatrice gave 10 tons of gold to Kinzo, which meant that the witch was a true owner of the gold. Beatrice was the owner of all the vast fortune of the Ushinomiya family. The witch holding this vast wealth had massacred the humans on Rokkenjima on that day, and sent large amounts of money to surviving relatives like it was a game. Like hell is a letter from the dead. This is a desecration of the dead. I was once again convinced. My family, who died on the island that day, didn't die and go to heaven. They're being trapped by the witch even now, and are being desecrated and tormented for all eternity. The last place Ange visited was a store in a region where residential and commercial areas intermingled with a signboard saying Marufuku Sleep Shop. Sleep shop? There lived a man who had been a captain of the ferry boat to Rokkenjima at the time. Even he, who had once lived as a man of the sea, had retired after contracting a serious illness, and was now being taken care of at the house of his son and his son's wife.
よく覚えてる。あんた、まだこんなに小さかった。
Okay, I heard that sound.
立派になったな。そして、さぞや辛かっただろう。お前さんの気持ち、よくわかるぞ。
Okay, let's look at his character profile. Oh, more people. Nanjo's son took over the Nanjo clinic. Unlike Nanjo, he gives a slightly dispassionate, indifferent impression. After the commotion surrounding Rokkenjima, he grew to completely despise the press, and never again did he attempt to speak of what had happened at the time. He used to have a daughter who was afflicted with an intractable disease, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to live out her natural lifespan. Oh. I feel like that's important information. Kumasawa's son works at a Nijima fishing harbor. He must have gotten his carefree, big-hearted personality from Kumasawa. Kumasawa had many sons, and a number of them were away from the land as fishermen. It was purely coincidence that it was possible to come into contact with him, as he happened to be involved with a fishing harbor. Hopes are on him that he might have heard chatty Kumasawa let something important slip, but... And Captain Kuwabata, an old man who used to captain the high-speed boat that went to Rokkenjima and back. It is beyond doubt that of the existing survivors, he is one of those who know the most about Rokkenjima. From various comments by the servants who used to go to and from the island, the media hoped that he might be quite knowledgeable about the internal affairs of the Ushiomiya family. However, he would say nothing, and so they eventually began to forget about this old man. He is someone important, I'm sure. Your names are all really interesting. Anyway, the former boat captain was so full of energy that you couldn't really tell why he had retired in the first place, just like Ginzo, huh? His memory seemed clear too. He had a good memory of things that had happened more than a decade prior, and it seemed that he could even remember how Ange had been at the time. The lively conversation was very helpful for Ange, but at the same time, the captain also remembered the final family conference very well, and the fact that he had detailed memories of even Battler's gonna fall uproar on the boat was instead painful for Ange, but that shows how clear his memory is. It had been so back then as well, but even now, there was no public way to cross to Rokkenjima. It was necessary to make an individual request to an owner of a boat to make the voyage. I still hadn't managed to arrange for a boat to Rokkenjima, so this is before he left on the boat. So if he refused me, the voyage to Rokkenjima would probably become hopeless. Wait, did she or did she not?
わかってる。今、あの島に行きたがる船なんぞ、簡単には見つからんだろう。今じゃ六軒島と呼ばず、古い名前の悪食島と呼ぶものまでおる。
Right, I remember that one. Something about demons, right?
この辺りの船乗りじゃ、首を縦には振るまいな。
Originally, Rokkenjima had been feared as an island of disaster by the fishermen. And when that incident happened 12 years ago, that fear reached its peak. They respected the sea, feared it, and revered it. There were almost no sailors who would try to take a boat to the cursed island. Because of that, most of the witch hunters were unable to cross over to Rokkenjima and were limited to taking a trip around the island. Ironically, this caused the mystique surrounding Rokkenjima to increase even more, and resulted in the proliferation of the bizarre witch stories they loved so much.
船は出してもらえるでしょうか？
明日だけ返してもらう約束になっとる。最近はエンジンがだいぶご機嫌斜めらしいがな。かっ飛ばしてやるわい。
Former boat captain promised that tomorrow he would go back to his previous job and take his boat out to Rokkenjima. With this, I'd managed to secure a method of transport to Rokkenjima. This is probably all I can do on Nijima. All that's left is tomorrow. On Rokkenjima, I'll reach the final destination of a journey that stretches back 12 years. Wait, this has to be... The boat ride that she was on has to have been to Nijima and not to Rokkenjima, right? Since Sakutaro didn't exist until then. And that's the end?
よかったね。
No.
これで島へ行けるようになったね。
そうね。船を見つけるのは難しいと聞いていたから、船長が協力的で助かったわ。
エンジ様ほどではないにしても、船長にとっても12年前の事件は、未だ抜けないトゲなんでしょうね。
ウリュウ、船長さんも心の整理がつかなかったんだね、ずっと。
そりゃそうでしょう。約束通り10月5日に、あのじいさんが船を出してくれれば、 大勢が助かった可能性がある。ちょっと風が強いからといって船を渋らなければ。
Well, we don't know what happened.
ウリュウ、そんなこと言っちゃダメだよ。船長さんもそれを今日までずっと苦しんできたはずだよ。
I heard that it had truly been right in the middle of a typhoon on October 5th. According to the boat captain, he had known for certain that they would be trapped by the typhoon if they headed to Rokkenjima on October 4th. But the family had been very insistent upon the date, which had been determined beforehand as the date of the conference. So the conference was planned around the typhoon or something? I don't know. Can you even do that? Probably not. The typhoon must have been part of the uncertainties. I don't know. It was only natural. All of the adults had their own packed schedules and had come to the family conference having arranged those schedules in advance. They probably had their own circumstances preventing them from easily pushing it back to next week just because the typhoon was approaching. It wasn't a boat captain's fault, but perhaps you could say that he didn't feel so guiltless that he could place the blame wholly on the typhoon. Certainly, just as these two said, there's no doubt that a boat captain had been dragging the events of 12 years ago along with him this whole time. And by taking me, the last member of the Ushiromiya line, to the island, and bringing me back safely, he might be trying to find some resolution for the past.
船は昼過ぎに帰ってくることになってる。それからあんたを六軒島へ案内するから、到着は夕方前になるだろう。電気も明かりもない島だ。あまり長いはできんぞ。その程度の上陸で、あんたの気は済むかね。
長い舌から何かの気が済む。船を出してもらえるだけでも感謝します。
うん。すまんな。わしが船を手放していなければ、ケチなことを言わず、好きなだけ島へ案内してやれるんだが。
It's not like I have a goal of doing something in particular on Rokkenjima. But the time of day I'll be staying there is evening. The evening, which straddles the two different worlds of day and night, seemed almost like a borderline between this world and the next, or possibly between 1998 and 1986, and felt like the most fitting time to visit Rokkenjima. It's not like I'll be doing anything on the island. Staying there for just a few hours will be just fine if I can feel some closure. At that time, there was a small knock on the paper sliding door, and Namakusa stuck his head in, tapping his watch. I nodded back and told him I'd gotten a hold of a boat for tomorrow.
それはよかった。そろそろ参りましょう。船長、明日はよろしくお願いします。
おう、任せておけ。お前さんたちの難儀な事情も聞いとる。わしも当時のワイドショーを見ていて、面白半分に事件をかき回す連中に虫唾が走っとったもんだ。協力は惜しまんよ。
ありがとうございます。それでは明日、これ、船代に。
Ange took out a wrapped wad of 10,000 yen bills from her pocket. The boat captain must have seen its thickness as well, but he paid it absolutely no interest and shook his head.
わしはお前さんに感謝しとるよ。これは天のお導きだ。あんたを六軒島へ連れて行き、そして無事に連れ帰る最後のチャンスをくださったんだ。わしは金蔵さんに任されていた最後の仕事を、今、ようやく終えることができる。だからあんたには感謝してる。金は当時の金蔵さんからたらふくもらってる。あんたから取れんよ。
ありがとうございます。
So Kinzo paid for the boat?
階段、足元に気をつけてな。急だぞ。
I went down a steep staircase that was the exact opposite of accessible. It was getting hard to believe that there had actually been a chest of drawers and a TV in a room upstairs. Why? Most of the first floor was a bedding store with many futons piled up on each other. The captain followed behind us as we weaved our way through the cramped futon shop. After cautiously checking around outside, Amakusa dashed out first and started up the car.
孫の部屋が空いとる。泊まって行っても構わんのに。見ての通り、布団なら有り余っとるぞ。
ありがとうございます。万一の時、ご迷惑はかけられませんので。
Right, because of, her aunt chasing her.
事情は知らんが、相当な厄介に巻き込まれてるようだな。うさんくさい連中が人探しをしていると噂になっとる。あんたのことじゃないのかね？
I'm kind of scared and suspicious of him.
さあ。
Ange played dumb, but it looked as though the boat captain had guessed.
わしは六軒島を目指す客人を送り届け、そして迎えに行き、連れ帰ることが仕事だった。その仕事を12年前に中断したまま、まだ終えてない。だからわしは、あんたのおかげでその仕事をようやく終えることができるんだ。だから、わしにその仕事を終えさせてくれよ。わかってるな。
ええ、別に私は死にに行くんじゃない。
But part of me does feel that if I could die on the island, I would surely be able to go to where my family is. I had finally become aware of it. I might have been planning to die on that island. Oh. I might have come all this way, heading for Rokkenjima in search of a place to die. The boat captain had guessed that as well. And so for emphasis, he told me again, don't.
ええ、死にません。
Sorry for doubting you, Captain.
約束します。そもそも私、どうして六軒島に行かなくてはならないのかの目的さえ、未だにあやふやなんですから。
いや、目的はきっとある。あんたにないなら、それは彼らにあるんだ。島があんたを呼んだ。だからあんたはここまで来たんだ。
そうかもしれませんね。私は、呼ばれたのかもしれない。
I was called. For what reason? For them. Mom, Dad, Battler Ani-chan, and Maria Ne-chan. Or maybe, the Golden Witch, Beatrice. What does Rokkenjima have for me? And what will I achieve? Even though tomorrow was almost upon me at last, I still wasn't able to understand my own mission. There was a sound of a car stopping in front of the store, and a short honk could be heard.
それでは明日、失礼します。
I got past the stacks of futons in the narrow store and was about to go outside. Just then, my feet stopped.
どうしたね？
あれは？
Wait, I'm scared!
あれ？はて、何の話だね？
Wait, please. Trembling all over, I pointed at it. But no matter how much the boat captain squinted, he noticed absolutely nothing in that direction that should have surprised me. That means what? God, please.
ありえない。
Wait, I'm so scared. No, I don't want Umineko to become a horror game, please.
どうして？
ウリュウ、エンジェ、どうして？
What?
どういうことなのこれは？
私にだってさっぱりだわ。そんなバカなことってあるの？これは魔法なの？奇跡なの？ええ。多分これは運命よ。私は今理解したわ。これが私の使命だったのよ。
ウリュウ、
私には何が何だか。
I was frozen in position, shaking, pointing into the semi-darkness inside the store.
どうしたんだね？何があるんだね？わからん。 あんたには何が見えてるのかね。
ありがとう船長。全部これは運命だったんです。ここに私が訪れることさえ運命だった。これが私が六軒島へ行く目的で使命なんです。
What is she talking about?
エンジさん、どうしました？トラブルですか？
わしにもさっぱりわからん。お嬢ちゃんが暗がりを指さしたまま固まっちまったんだ。
エンジさん、大丈夫ですか？何が見えるんですか？
あなたたちには見えないの？それよそれ。
You think it's a golden butterfly?
見えないの？
見えるのはただの陳列棚です。誰も言いやしませんぜ。
ウリュウ、エンジェ、僕には何が何だかわからないよ。これは夢なの？魔法なの？どういうことなの？エンジェ。
Sakutaro lifted his face towards Ange. From her eyes
エンジ様。
slid a single tear.
理解したわお姉ちゃん。そしてベアトリーチェ。
ウリュウ。
So this is magic. What? Huh? Oh goodness. What's with all the cliffhangers? God! What did she see? In the display case. A final family conference, 11 p.m.
テストって。
Oh god. You know, I'm gonna end here for today. But goodness, what was that? We learned so many things today about the contents of the letters, as well as what Ange just went through. There's actually a lot of things that we need to unpack in this episode. So I hope you give me some time to think about it as well. Alright, so today's episode really was a very wild one. We found out that Nanjo and Kumasawa's sons did receive a letter addressed to the parents of them as descendants, and the address were faked, but I feel like the locations, for example, the island in Hokkaido, I feel like they are important, relevant information, and we should keep that in mind. Ange also received the same letter addressed to Rudolph, but she doesn't have the letter anymore, so we don't know where the address is. I'm really curious to see if the address is actually an important part in this mystery, but I really honestly do feel like there is something with that. And the number that we see opens the dreamland. Wasn't that what it is? 07151129 in episode 3 it sounded like it was a combination, a safe combination or something. Opens the door to the golden land, something like that, right? If I piece this two information together, doesn't that mean that the cash in that safe is the golden land? And the golden land was attained with illegal means or something like that? Anyway, Kumasawa, we found out, was also solving the epitaph. She took a picture of what I'm certain is a chapel with the inscription written in English about the door only opening at the possibility of MBTQ. I remember this because I had to go on the large number of wikis to search this up, so it's really fresh in my mind. And well, here they clearly state that it's a 1 in a quadrillion chance of being open and a 1 in quadrillion chance of being blessed to open it. But still, I'm having a hard time figuring this one out. Just what does it all tie into, and why a quadrillion, and where does the MBTQ come into play? And finally, I'm dying to know what exactly Ange saw in the corner of the room. Amakusa says it's just a normal display case, and neither the boat captain nor Amakusa saw anything out of the ordinary with it, suggesting that it is, in fact, a perfectly reasonable item to keep in a display case. Yet, I'm sure it must have held a strong symbolic meaning to Ange. And Mammon and Sakutaro also wonders if it's magic, and Ange remarks that it's ridiculous to be there. So I've tried thinking of some things up, but I really couldn't. All I can deduce is that it's probably very important to Ange, and that's why she says it's fate. Anyway, that's really it. I feel like I can make a bit more progress on the epitaph now, possibly. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!